Welcome back to Secrets Exposed. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. You're the reason these stories are worth sharing. Tell us where you're watching from, city or country. We're amazed by how far these tales reach. To get daily new and amazing stories for you, please subscribe our channel and press bell icon. All right, let's begin. The night was stitched with thunder and blades of light, each strike reflected on the black river below. Captain Ryan Cole leaned from the open door of the rescue helicopter, his harness clinking against the steel rail. "Hold her steady," he shouted over the rotors, lowering the cable to a woman trapped on the rooftop of a half-submerged farmhouse. Rain hammered his helmet, turning every word into static. The woman's terrified eyes met his as he fastened the harness around her shoulders. "You're safe now," he said, though his voice was almost swallowed by the wind. As the helicopter lifted, a sudden crack cut through his earpiece. Not thunder this time, but the command channel. "Captain Cole, urgent patch from base. Medical call, priority 1. Ryan frowned. "Now!" He was halfway through the rescue rotation, but the dispatcher's voice broke again, tense and stammering. "It's personal. They said it's about your son." His breath caught. For a second, he forgot he was hanging from the open door of a machine slicing through storm clouds. "Patch it through," he said quickly. Static hissed. Then a stranger's voice came on, shaky, exhausted. "Captain Cole? This is Dr. Mason Lee from Mercy General. I'm sorry to reach you like this. Your son's been brought in critical. He was found near Easton Bridge. There was an accident." Ryan's chest tightened. "Accident?" he demanded. The doctor hesitated. "The police report says he was pushed from a vehicle that went off the bridge at high speed, about 80 miles per hour. We're working on him now. You need to get here immediately." The words turned the storm silent. For the first time in years, Ryan couldn't hear the rotors or the rain, only the quick thump of his own heartbeat. His hand gripped the side rail until his knuckles whitened. Pushed, not fell, not thrown by impact. Pushed. His training told him to move, to function, but his body stayed still for a full 5 seconds. He could see his son's face, 8 years old, messy hair, those same blue eyes that once looked up at him before every deployment and asked, "You'll come back, right, Dad?" He climbed inside, removed his headset, and signaled his co-pilot. "Take her home," he said, voice clipped and low. "Mission's yours." The younger man looked at him, confused. "Sir?" Ryan didn't explain. He unbuckled, pushed to the cockpit door, and was halfway down the tarmac before a commander's voice called out through the rain. "Cole, what the hell are you doing?" Colonel Arthur Hayes, broad-shouldered and gray-eyed, stood under the hangar lights. Ryan's uniform was soaked through, boots heavy with mud. "My son's in the R," Ryan said simply. He was pushed off a bridge. Hayes studied him for a long second, not as an officer, but as a man who buried too many brothers. "Then go," he said finally. "You have 24 hours. Off the record. After that, I pull you back in and this conversation never happened." Ryan gave a curt nod. He ran toward his truck, keys already in hand. The storm swallowed him whole as the hangar lights faded behind him. By the time he hit the freeway, the wipers were useless against the rain. His mind replayed the doctor's words, each syllable hitting harder. Critical. Pushed. Easton Bridge. He knew that bridge. He'd driven Ethan over it countless times, teaching him how to spot the river bend from the passenger window. The phone on the seat buzzed again. Unknown number. He answered, a voice weak and trembling. "Ryan, it's me." It was Lena, his wife. Ryan's jaw clenched. "Where are you?" "At the hospital." "Please, just come." Something in her tone, not panic, but guilt, sank straight through him. "I'm coming," he said. His knuckles turned white around the steering wheel as he pressed harder on the gas. Outside, lightning split the horizon in half, and for a fleeting second the reflection of the bridge appeared in the distance. Broken guardrails, twisted metal. Ryan whispered to himself, a valve forming somewhere between his heartbeat and the engine's roar. "Whoever did this to my boy, I'm coming for you." And as the storm thickened, the truck sped faster into the night, toward a truth that would destroy everything he thought he knew. Rain still clung to Ryan's jacket when he burst through the hospital's glass doors, boots slapping against the polished floor. The sterile brightness stung his eyes after the storm's darkness. A nurse at the front desk glanced up, startled by the soaked man with a military haircut and hollow stare. "My son," he rasped, breath uneven. "Ethan Cole." He was brought from Easton Bridge. Recognition flashed across her face. She motioned toward the trauma wing. "Second floor. ICU. Doctor leaves with him." Ryan didn't wait. He took the stairs two at a time, his heart hammering in rhythm with the echo of his boots. At the top, a woman sat slumped on a bench outside the glass ICU doors. Hair damp, clothes wrinkled, hands clasped as if she were trying to hold herself together. "Lena," he said quietly. She lifted her head. For a moment, the world went still between them. His wife, the woman he'd loved for 15 years. But her eyes, once warm, now looked haunted. "Ryan," her voice cracked. "He's in there. They're still working on him." He stepped past her toward the viewing window. Behind the glass, a tangle of tubes and monitors surrounded the small body on the bed. Ethan's chest rose in shallow tremors under the oxygen mask, a bruise stretching along his temple. Ryan's throat locked. He'd pulled strangers from wrecks like this. Civilians, soldiers, children, but never his own. "What happened?" His voice was a low growl. Lena stood, trembling. It wasn't supposed to." She bit her lip. Mark was driving him home. He said he'd take him to the pier for ice cream. Then the police called. Ryan turned sharply. "Mark." Her silence was answer enough. He took a step closer. "Mark Davies? The man you said was just a friend from work." Lena's lips parted, but no sound came. The hallway light flickered, as if the truth itself didn't want to be seen. A new voice interrupted them. "Captain Cole?" Dr. Mason Lee approached, peeling off surgical gloves, fatigue etched deep in his features. "Your son's stable for now. Head trauma, fractured ribs, internal bleeding controlled. But he's not out of danger." Ryan's fist unclenched slightly. "Can I see him?" "Not yet," the doctor said softly. "He needs sedation. You'll have to wait until morning." Ryan nodded, then motioned for the doctor to leave them. When they were alone, his tone hardened. "Tell me everything, Lena. No pauses, no half-truths." Her breath hitched. "I didn't know he'd take him, Ryan. I swear. Mark called earlier. He said you'd missed Ethan's school play again that you didn't deserve." She stopped, choking on her words. "He was angry. I thought he just wanted to talk to Ethan. That's all." Ryan stared at her, disbelief giving way to something colder. "You thought it was fine for another man to talk to my son?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I was tired, Ryan. You're gone for months, and I—" He cut her off, voice trembling with contained rage. "Don't. Not now." The corridor fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the distant hum of machines. Through the glass, Ethan's monitors blinked like a heartbeat in the dark. Ryan's mind replayed the doctor's words. Pushed from a vehicle. It wasn't an accident. He turned away from Lena, pulling his phone from his pocket. The screen lit with a dozen missed calls from an unknown number and one voicemail, time-stamped 15 minutes before the crash. He tapped play. Mark's voice filled the air, slurred and angry. "You think you can keep her, soldier boy? She's done waiting for you. Maybe when you lose what matters, you'll finally come home." Then a crash, a scream. Ethan's voice faint but clear. "Stop, please," and the line cut. The phone slipped in Ryan's hand. His pulse pounded so loud it drowned everything else. He looked at Lena, her eyes wide, face drained of color. She'd heard it too. "Where is he?" Ryan asked, voice like gravel. I don't know," she whispered. "Yes, you do." He stepped closer, close enough that she flinched. "He called you first, didn't he?" Her silence was his answer. Ryan exhaled through clenched teeth. "Then I'll find him myself." He turned toward the ICU door again, pressing a hand against the glass between him and his son. "Hold on, buddy," he murmured. "Dad's here." Behind him, Lena sobbed quietly, whispering a prayer he didn't hear. Because Ryan was already somewhere else, deep in the cold precision of a soldier's mind, planning, calculating. By the time dawn hinted beyond the rain, his decision was already made. He wasn't going to wait for the police. He was going to hunt. Morning never truly came. Just a dull gray leaking to the storm clouds, as if the sun didn't want to witness what was left of the night. Ryan sat in the dim hospital waiting area, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on a half-empty cup of coffee that had long gone cold. He hadn't moved in hours. Across the hall, behind a wall of glass, Ethan lay motionless beneath the soft of the monitors. The faint beep of the heart rate machine was the only thing keeping Ryan tethered to sanity. A shadow moved beside him. Detective Claire Monroe, late 30s, tired eyes but alert mind, slipped into the seat next to him. "Captain Cole," she said gently, flashing her badge. "I know this isn't the time, but we need to talk." Ryan looked up, his stare hollow. "Is this about the man who pushed my son?" She nodded, opening her notepad. Mark Davies, mechanic, known domestic disturbances. 2 priors for assault. Witnesses saw a silver coupe swerving near the bridge last night, before it hit the guardrail. Your wife's number was in his call log minutes before the crash. Ryan's jaw tightened. "You have him?" "Not yet," Monroe admitted. "His shop's empty, phone off, car missing. But we got traffic cam data. Vehicle passed a toll station northbound just after midnight. We're tracing it." Ryan leaned back, eyes narrowing. "You'll find him. I'll be there when you do." Monroe sighed. "Captain, I understand what you're feeling. But if you interfere—" "I don't interfere," he interrupted quietly. "I finish what others hesitate to start." Before she could reply, his phone buzzed. Sergeant Nolan Price, Ryan's closest friend in the service. He stepped aside and answered. "Ryan," Nolan said, voice low and tense. "I heard about Ethan. I've got something. The Highway Patrol's incident server. Someone tried to delete footage from Easton Bridge cams around 10:43 p.m. Guess who used their mechanic's license ID?" Ryan's pulse spiked. "Mark." "Bingo," Nolan confirmed. "I pulled the backup before it wiped. You want to see this yourself." "I'm on my way." Ryan hung up, turning back to Monroe. "Where's the nearest secure room with a laptop and projector?" 10 minutes later, they were in a small office beside the nurse's station. Rain still streamed down the windows. Nolan's encrypted link popped onto the screen, and Ryan opened the file. Static blurred the footage for a few seconds. Then the image cleared. The silver coupe appeared, headlights cutting across slick asphalt. Inside, Mark's silhouette in the driver's seat. Beside him, Ethan's small frame, seatbelt fastened, head turning toward the window. The timestamp blinked. 10:42 and 58 seconds p.m. Mark's arm jerked violently. The car swerved, hit the rail, door flung open. A blur. Ethan's body launched into darkness. Mark's car reversed slightly, paused, and sped off. Lena gasped behind him. He hadn't realized she'd entered the room. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh, God, oh my God." Ryan stood perfectly still. His knuckles pressed against the table until the metal creaked. His breathing slowed to a terrifying calm. Monroe stopped the footage. "This is enough for an arrest warrant. We'll issue it within the hour." Ryan turned to her. "He won't wait for you. You know that." Monroe hesitated. "I'll alert every patrol in the district." He took one last look at the frozen image of Mark's car disappearing into the night. Then quietly he unplugged the USB. "Do that, but I'll find him first." "Captain." He was already walking out. Outside, the storm had finally broken into a misty drizzle. The air smelled of oil and wet asphalt. Ryan pulled his jacket tight and stepped into the parking lot. His reflection fractured across puddles. He called Nolan. "Track his car. Last toll, direction, speed." "Already on it," Nolan said. "Westbound, out of the city." "But Ryan, don't do anything stupid." Ryan slid behind the wheel of his truck, engine growling to life. Stupid would have been staying in that hospital, waiting for someone else to fix this. He looked once toward the hospital windows. Through the faint reflection, he could see Ethan's silhouette under machines, fragile, still. Then he shifted into drive. Every instinct in him, every rule he'd ever followed, was gone. There was only one objective left. Find Mark Davies. End the hunt before the law even starts it. As the truck disappeared into the fading storm, Detective Monroe stood by the window watching the taillights vanish. She didn't call it in. Not yet. Some truths, she knew, needed to finish themselves before justice could begin. The highway unrolled like a scar across the drenched countryside. Ryan drove without music, without thought, the wipers sweeping away more than rain, clearing fragments of the man he used to be. His phone lit up on the dash. Nolan Price. Got something, Nolan said. State traffic servers just pinged. Mark's coupe showed up again. 15 miles west, old industrial sector. One of the cameras caught the plate before it disappeared. You're closing in. Ryan's grip tightened on the wheel. Send me coordinates. Ryan, don't go in alone. But the line went dead. He'd already made his decision. Minutes later, he turned off the main road onto a crack lane flanked by storage depots. The air was thick with diesel and rust. Rainwater pooled in potholes, reflecting the ghostly orange of half-dead street lamps. He parked beside a chain-link fence, killed the engine, and sat still for a moment. The silence after the storm was almost unnatural. He could hear his heartbeat, slow and deliberate. Then a faint noise, a phone vibrating inside his jacket. Unknown number. He answered. Ryan. Lena's voice trembled. Please, just come back to the hospital. Don't do this. His jaw clenched. Ethan's alive because God didn't let your friend finish what he started. Don't tell me what to do. You don't understand, she said. Mark isn't just angry. He's scared. He told me if I said anything, He cut her off. Then pray he's scared enough to run, because if he's here, it ends tonight. He hung up, stepped into the cold night air, and followed the puddle reflections toward a dim light flickering inside one of the warehouses. The metal door was half open. Inside, the faint buzz of a computer filled the air. A small desk sat in the corner, littered with energy drink cans and cigarette butts. Ryan's eyes locked on a laptop glowing with playback software. On the screen, frozen footage of a dashboard camera. He moved closer, heart thundering as he hit play. The video jolted to life. Mark's voice filled the small room, sneering, agitated. Kid, you talk too much. You think your dad's some hero? He's not coming home. Ethan's small voice answered, shaky but brave. He said he'd come back. He always does. Ryan's vision blurred. His son's voice, those words, cut through him sharper than any bullet. Mark's laugh was cruel. You'll see how much he cares when he's digging your grave. The camera shook, the car accelerated, and headlights lit up the wet rail of the bridge. Mark's hand reached across the passenger seat. A scream. Then silence. Ryan's chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. He paused the footage, fists trembling. For a long moment, he just stared at the frozen image of his son's frightened face. Behind him, a sound, soft footsteps crunching glass. Ryan spun, gun drawn, breath steady. A figure emerged from the shadows, Detective Monroe. Easy, she said, hands up. I followed your GPS ping. You shouldn't be here. I had to see it, Ryan muttered, lowering his weapon. He recorded it. The bastard kept a trophy. Monroe glanced at the laptop and swallowed hard. This is enough to bury him. Ryan's eyes were locked on the screen. Not yet. He's not caught. Let the department handle it. Monroe said carefully, if you cross the line, there's no coming back. He looked at her then, not as a soldier, but as a father whose world had been burned to ash. You ever had to scrape your child off a roadside, detective? Her silence was answer enough. He pulled the USB from the port, slipped it into his pocket. You'll have your evidence in the morning. Ryan. But he was already moving toward the door. Outside, thunder rolled again in the distance. The rain had returned, lighter now, almost cleansing. He stood under it, letting it soak through his jacket. Somewhere out there, Mark was hiding, but Ryan now had what he needed, proof direction, and a fire that no storm could put out. He looked up at the sky, whispering under his breath, you thought you erased him, but he's alive, and you recorded your own death sentence. Then he turned, boots splashing through puddles, heading back to the truck. The rain hissed against the metal roof as the engine roared to life. Behind him, in the warehouse, the laptop screen still glowed, frozen on Mark's face mid-scream, while the words "playback complete" flashed across the corner. By the time Monroe re-entered the room, Ryan was gone, and the hunt had officially begun. The horizon was the color of bruised steel when Ryan's truck rolled to a stop outside Lena's house. The wipers squeaked one last time before the engine went silent. Dawn wasn't light yet. It was just darkness pretending to fade. His reflection in the windshield looked like someone he didn't recognize, a man stripped down to purpose. He stepped out, boots crunching against the wet gravel, and walked up the path. Every step was deliberate, controlled. He could still hear Ethan's voice from the dash cam in his mind. "He always comes back." The words drove him forward like an order. The house lights were on. Through the window, he saw Lena pacing the living room. A phone pressed her ear. When he knocked, she froze. The phone slipped from her hand. She opened the door slowly. "Ryan, what are you doing here?" He didn't answer. He stepped past her into the room, water dripping from his jacket onto the hardwood floor. "Where is he?" "I told you I don't." "Stop lying." Ryan snapped, his voice low but cutting. "You called him. You warned him I was coming." Lena's lips trembled. "I had to," he said. "If I didn't." "He'd what?" Ryan took a step closer. "Finish what he started?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "He's dangerous, Ryan. I didn't know he'd hurt Ethan. I swear to God I didn't." Ryan stared at her, eyes sharp, searching for truth in every twitch of her face. "You know? Or you didn't want to know?" Lena backed away until her knees hit the couch. "I thought he'd just scare you," she whispered. "He said he'd make you realize how much you'd abandoned us." "I was stupid. You told him to scare me using my son?" Ryan's voice broke, fury and disbelief colliding. "You put my child in a car with that psychopath." She shook her head violently, sobbing. "He said it would be a call from the hospital, a fake emergency. I never thought. He said it would be harmless." Ryan exhaled slowly, running a hand down his face. The exhaustion behind his anger was worse than rage. "You made our son bait in a game I didn't know we were playing." Lena collapsed into tears, hiding her face in her hands. "Please, I'll help you find him. I'll tell you everything I know." "Then start talking." Between sobs, she told him everything. How she met Mark at the auto shop, where she took her car. How it started as friendship, turned into something more when Ryan was overseas. How Mark hated hearing her talk about her husband, the hero who never came home. How he grew possessive, jealous, erratic. "When I told him I was ending it, he laughed," she said. "He said I'd see what kind of man you really were once I lost everything that mattered." Ryan's jaw tightened. "He called you last night." "Yes," she said. "He said he was driving with Ethan. He sounded angry. I told him to bring him back, but he hung up." Ryan turned toward the window. Outside, dawn had begun to color the street a dull blue. A new day, but nothing was clean about it. He pulled the USB from his pocket, the one he'd taken from the warehouse. "I saw what he did," he said. "Your friend filmed it. Maybe as proof. Maybe as leverage. Doesn't matter now." Lena stared at the flash drive as if it were a weapon. "You watched it." "I watched him push our son off a bridge." The silence that followed was suffocating. Finally, Ryan stepped toward the door. "You said you helped me. Start by giving me his routines. Where he hides. Friends. Places he'd run." She nodded shakily. "He used to crash in an old service garage by the river. Sometimes near the freight warehouses." Ryan's hand froze on the door handle. He remembered the warehouse, the one where he'd found the laptop. "He's close," he murmured. "Too close." He turned back to her one last time. "If you still have any sense left, stay away from him. And don't call me again until it's over." "Ryan, wait." But he was already gone. Outside, the sky split into streaks of silver and orange as the first sunlight touched the wet asphalt. Ryan slid into the driver's seat and glanced at the photo taped to his dashboard. Ethan grinning, holding a toy helicopter. His fingers brushed the edges of the picture like a vow. He started the engine, the low rumble echoing his heartbeat. Mark Davies thought he could run. Thought fear would protect him. He was wrong. This wasn't rage anymore. It was procedure, a mission, and Ryan Cole always finishes missions. The city was still half asleep when Ryan left Lena's house. A gray fog rolled low over the streets, swallowing streetlights and turned the world into a blurred reflection. The storm had passed, but the air was heavy, like the sky hadn't decided yet if it wanted peace or thunder. Ryan drove without music, one hand on the wheel, the other tracing the edge of the USB drive in his pocket. His mind replayed every second of the footage. Mark's voice, Ethan's scream, the open car door. Each image burned behind his eyelids until he felt like he was still inside that video, trapped in its nightmare loop. The phone on the passenger seat buzzed. Sergeant Nolan Price. "Talk to me," Ryan said. "I ran the tag from Mark's coupe," Nolan replied. "It pinged again near the interstate border about 2 hours ago. But there's more. You're not the only one looking for him." "What do you mean?" "Local cops found his apartment trashed. Looks like someone else got there first. Drawers emptied. Papers gone. Signs of a struggle. My guess? He's running scared. Or cleaning up." Ryan pressed harder on the gas. "He's cornered. Desperate." "Yeah, and desperate men make mistakes," Nolan warned. "Don't make one with him. You've got a son still fighting for his life." Ryan didn't answer. His eyes were on the road, scanning every car, every turn. "Send me the new coordinates." "Ryan." "Send them." A sigh crackled to the line, followed by a GPS ping. "Warehouse District, East Riverside. You've got maybe 30 minutes before PD units sweep the area." Ryan disconnected. 30 minutes. That was all he needed. He turned onto the service road, leading down to the river. The place looked abandoned. Rows of rusted warehouses. Cranes frozen mid-motion like skeletons of old industry. Birds scattered from the roof as his truck rolled in. Tires crunching over gravel. He killed the engine and stepped out, scanning the perimeter with the instinct of a soldier back in hostile territory. A faint echo of machinery hummed somewhere inside one of the buildings. He followed the sound, every step slow and calculated. The warehouse door creaked as he pushed it open. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. Inside, a single bulb swung lazily from the ceiling, illuminating an old car half disassembled on a lift. Tools scattered the floor. And beside the car, tire tracks, still wet. He crouched, touched the ground. Fresh. Then footsteps. Ryan straightened, hand instinctively going to the holster at his side. A figure moved in the shadows behind the pillars. "Mark," he called, voice steady. "You're out of places to hide." Silence. Then a low laugh echoed through the space. "You think this is the end, soldier?" Mark's voice carried, mocking and hoarse. "You have no idea what you started." Ryan stepped forward, eyes locked on the darkness. "You pushed my son off a bridge. That's all that matters." Mark's shape emerged, a mess of unshaven hair, grease-stained clothes, and eyes that flickered between arrogance and fear. "Your kid got in the way," he said, shrugging like it meant nothing. "He wouldn't shut up about you. Thought I'd teach him what kind of hero you really are." Ryan's fist clenched. "You call that teaching?" "I call that survival," Mark sneered. "You took everything from me. You and her. You think she didn't want me? She came to me first." Ryan's voice lowered, controlled but lethal. "I saw the footage. You filmed yourself pushing him." Mark froze for a fraction of a second, then smirked. "You shouldn't have found that." "You wanted me to," Ryan said. "You wanted me to see what you did. So I'd come for you. Congratulations, you got what you wanted." Mark laughed again, a sound full of nerves and poison. "I didn't mean for the kid to die, all right? He's alive, isn't he? Then you should thank me." Ryan stepped closer, eyes cold. "If he doesn't wake up, I'll bury you where you stand." Before Mark could respond, flashing red lights appeared to the warehouse window. Distant but closing in. Police sirens. Detective Monroe had kept her word. Mark's smirk faltered. "You brought them?" "No," Ryan said. "But maybe they'll save you from me." Mark's face twisted, panic surfacing beneath his bravado. You don't get it. Lena's not innocent. She's part of this. You think she told you the truth. Ryan's jaw tightened. You're lying. Mark stepped back toward a side door, still talking fast. Check her messages, soldier boy. She planned it. Said she'd make you come home one way or another. She used me. The sirens grew louder, closer. Ryan took one step forward, then stopped. If that's true, he said quietly, then you just gave me one more reason not to miss. Mark turned and bolted through the side exit. Ryan followed. But by the time he reached the door, the alley beyond was empty except for fading footsteps splashing through puddles. He stood there, breath heavy, rain beginning to fall again. Somewhere in the distance, tires screeched as police vehicles spread out. Ryan looked up at the gray dawn sky, the truth clawing at the edges of his thoughts. She planned it? No, she couldn't have. But deep down, part of him already knew. The betrayal wasn't over. And the next target might not be a stranger. The rain turned to a steady whisper by the time Ryan reached his truck again. The city's morning hum was just waking, but he didn't hear it. His mind was locked on Mark's final words. Check her messages. She planned it. He didn't want to believe it. Couldn't. Lena had been reckless, selfish, guilty of lying, but plan it? No. That line felt like something Mark would throw out just to twist a knife before running. Still, the way she'd avoided his eyes, how her story always skipped a beat, it gnawed at him. His phone buzzed. A message from Detective Monroe. We lost him. He ditched the coupe. Cops found blood on the driver's seat. Fresh. You have any idea where he's headed? Ryan typed back. No, but I'm going to make him come to me. He started the truck and pulled away from the warehouse, heading east. He knew Mark, angry, impulsive, cornered. A man like that didn't run far. He circled back to the one thing that gave him leverage. Lena. Ryan drove toward the edge of town, to an old construction yard overlooking the river. It was fenced off, half-collapsed equipment scattered around, forgotten by everyone except those looking for places to hide. He parked behind a derelict bulldozer and opened his laptop, connecting the USB from Mark's dashcam. The file list blinked open. Not one video. 6. Only the first had played before. The others were date-stamped weeks earlier. Ryan clicked one at random. Mark's face filled the screen. Same car, daytime. He was talking to someone off camera. A female voice answered. Ryan froze. It was Lena. You promise you'll scare him. Not hurt anyone. Relax, babe. He'll get the message. You'll have your husband home before summer. He'll hate me for it. Not if the kid looks scared. Just a hospital call. That's all. The clip ended. Ryan stared at the blank screen, his hands shaking. His pulse hammered like gunfire in his chest. It was true. She had been part of it. The setup, the plan, everything. He leaned back, exhaling through clenched teeth. The realization didn't just hurt. It hollowed him out. Every mission he'd survived. Every sacrifice. And the person waiting at home had traded his son's safety for attention. The phone rang again. Monroe. He answered. Voice low. You were right, he said. They were in it together. There was silence on the line. Then Monroe's voice, softer than usual. I'll get a warrant for her. But Ryan, stay out of this now. You've done enough. He looked out over the fog-covered river. No, he said. I haven't. He hung up, turned the ignition, and began typing a message to Lena. Mark's hurt. He's hiding near the docks. He said he wants to see you before the cops find him. Come alone. He hit send, then deleted the message from his sent folder. Now the trap was set. The minutes stretched long. He waited in silence, watching the road through the cracked windshield. Each car that passed made his heart tighten. Then headlights appeared, Lena's white sedan. She pulled in, tires crunching over gravel. She stepped out, scanning the shadows nervously. Mark, she called. Ryan emerged from behind the bulldozer. Not quite. She jumped. Ryan, what are you doing here? He walked closer, rain dripping from his jacket, eyes cold and steady. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. I got a text from Mark. He said he needed help. Did he? Ryan's tone sharpened. Or did you send the same text a month ago when you planned that scare with him? Lena's face drained of color. What are you talking about? He held up the USB. The dash cam recorded everything. You told him to frighten me, to fake a hospital call. That's what you said, right? Tears welled in her eyes. Ryan, please. Don't, he said, voice low. Don't say it was a mistake. Don't say you didn't know. You used our son. She shook her head, breaking down. I never wanted this. I thought, if something happened, you'd come home, you'd see what you were losing. What I was losing, he snapped, stepping closer. You almost killed the one person who still believed I'd come back. The wind picked up, rustling the plastic tarps around them. Somewhere nearby, thunder rolled again, faint but growing. Then, from behind the containers, a noise, a footstep. Ryan's instincts fired. He spun, drawing his weapon. Don't, Lena whispered. He's here. And then Mark's voice cut through the rain, ragged, furious. You brought him? Ryan turned toward the sound, gun raised. Mark staggered into view, blood seeping through a rip in his shoulder, face pale, but eyes burning. You lied to me? Mark shouted at Lena. You said we'd be gone before he found out. Ryan's aim never wavered. Looks like you were wrong. Mark's gaze darted between them, realizing the setup. You lured me here. Ryan's voice was ice. No, Mark. You lured yourself. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Monroe's team, closing in again. Mark took one step forward, wild-eyed. You think you can arrest me? You think this ends in court? Ryan's finger hovered near the trigger. No, he said quietly. It ends where it began. And as lightning tore through the sky, all three of them stood frozen. Husband, wife, and the man who had destroyed their family, waiting for the first move that would decide how far vengeance would go. Lightning forked across the river, flashing over the trio like a camera capturing guilt itself. The construction yard had turned into a battleground, mud, metal, and betrayal. Mark's chest heaved as he clutched his bleeding shoulder. Lena trembled between them, and Ryan stood motionless, weapon trained and unwavering. The sirens were closer now, a faint echo through the fog. But for Ryan, the world had narrowed down to this. 3 heartbeats, one truth waiting to surface. Mark laughed suddenly, sharp and bitter. You think you're the hero in this story, Captain? You think your gun fixes what she did? Shut up, Ryan said coldly. No, Mark grinned through his pain. You don't want the truth because it burns worse than what I did. She started this. She wanted it. Ask her. Ask your perfect wife why she called me 2 days before it happened. Lena shook her head frantically. He's lying. Ryan, don't listen. But Ryan's mind was already piecing together. Mark's words at the warehouse, the deleted footage, Lena's trembling denial. 2 days before the bridge, he repeated quietly. Why? Lena stepped closer, rain streaking her face. I told him I couldn't do it anymore, she cried. I wanted to end it. He begged me to give him one more chance to prove himself. I didn't know what he meant. I swear. Ryan's voice was calm but flat. And yet he was with Ethan that night. Her breath hitched. He took him without asking. Mark snorted, wincing. Without asking? You gave me your keys. You said, take Ethan for a drive. Calm him down before Ryan calls. You were part from the start. Lena's eyes widened, horror breaking through. No, I said to bring him home early. Ryan's finger twitched near the trigger. Both of you talk too much and say nothing. The sirens faded for a moment. Monroe must have hit a detour. The world around them felt suspended, as if time itself held its breath. Then Ryan's phone buzzed in his pocket. The caller ID froze him where he stood. Nolan Price. He hesitated, then answered without lowering the weapon. What? Nolan's voice came through, urgent. Ryan, I cracked Mark's backup drive, the one synced to the dash cam uploads. There's another video you didn't see, dated the same night. Ryan's pulse quickened. What's on it? Footage from the back seat, Nolan said. A camera he installed for safety records. It's bad, man. Ryan turned on the speaker, so they all could hear. Rain pattered around them like static. Nolan continued, voice grave. It shows your wife getting into the car before Ethan. She wasn't supposed to be there, but she was. She and Mark argued for almost 5 minutes before your boy climbed in. She got out halfway across the bridge, said she couldn't go through with it. He yelled after her, then Nolan's voice cracked. Then the kid screamed. Ryan's entire world tilted. You're saying Lena was in that car? Lena's knees gave out. Ryan, please listen. I didn't know he'd hurt Ethan. I thought. You thought. His voice exploded for the first time. Years of discipline collapsing. You sat in that car, next to the man who despised me, and you thought he wouldn't touch our son? I got out, she sobbed. I tried to stop him. Mark smirked through the blood. You wanted it both ways. You wanted me to scare him, but not too much. Guess that line's blurry when you're playing puppeteer. Ryan turned on him, gun raised. You shut your mouth. Mark's grin only widened. Shoot me. Go on. She'll walk free, and you'll never know which of us broke your son first. Rain hammered the metal roof. Ryan's chest rose and fell in tight rhythm. He wanted to pull the trigger. God, he wanted to, but something inside him refused to give Mark the satisfaction of an easy end. Instead, he slowly pulled out his phone again and switched the camera to record. He stepped closer to Mark. Say it again, he ordered. Mark blinked. What? Say she helped you. Mark glanced at Lena, then at the gun. She did. Ryan stepped closer, expression unreadable. Say you both planned to scare me. Mark's smirk faltered, realizing too late that the phone was pointed right at his face. We. Say it. Fine. Mark shouted. We planned it. She said if you lost your kid for a minute, you'd finally come home. The echo of his confession cut through the storm. Ryan stopped recording, slipping the phone back into his pocket. The red light of sirens flickered again in the distance. Monroe's team, finally closing in. Mark's eyes darted between them, panic setting in. You can't prove anything. Just did, Ryan said quietly. As Monroe's car skidded into the lot, lights flashing, Lena reached for Ryan's arm. Please, she begged. You have to believe me. I didn't mean. He looked at her, eyes distant. Meaning doesn't undo what's done. Officers spilled into the yard, weapons raised, shouting commands. Ryan lowered his gun, stepping back as they swarmed Mark, pinning him to the ground. Lena tried to speak, but Monroe grabbed her wrist, eyes cold. You'll talk downtown. The rain softened into drizzle again. Ryan stood motionless, staring at the river. Somewhere under those gray waters was the place where his son had fallen, where everything broke. Now, finally, the truth had surfaced, ugly, heavy, and real. Lena had been there. She hadn't pushed their son, but she'd opened the door that allowed it to happen. Ryan turned and walked toward the edge of the bridge, the stormlight glinting off the water. For the first time since it began, he didn't feel anger, only emptiness. The kind that comes after the last lie dies. The sun rose slow and blood orange over the skyline, slicing through the mist that clung to the river. Police cars still lined the construction yard, their flashing lights painting the rain-slick asphalt in shades of red and blue. But the chaos had quieted now. Mark was gone, dragged into the back of a squad car, still cursing through bloody teeth. Lena sat cuffed beside another vehicle, face pale, eyes hollow. And Ryan stood apart from them all. He leaned against the hood of his truck, uniform jacket soaked through, a cigarette burning low between his fingers. He hadn't smoked in years, but some memories demanded fire. The smoke curled in the morning air, mixing with a faint tang of oil and wet metal. Around him, everything felt heavy, like gravity itself wanted him on his knees. Detective Monroe approached quietly, holding a tablet in a plastic evidence bag. For the record, she said softly, the dashcam video, Mark's confession, and your phone recording, it's all admissible. You did the right thing bringing it in. Ryan didn't look at her. Right thing, he muttered. Doesn't feel like it. Monroe studied his face, the exhaustion behind his calm. You saved a lot of people from him. Captain, that man would have kept going. Ryan exhaled smoke, eyes distant. And my wife. She'll face charges, Monroe said carefully. Conspiracy, obstruction, maybe more. But she'll also testify. That's the only reason she's not in handcuffs right now. He turned to her then, his voice low but steady. She was in the car, detective. She watched him drive off with my son. You call that cooperation? Monroe sighed. You know how this goes. The DA will make a deal. She plays a remorseful mother. They'll let the jury handle sympathy. Ryan crushed a cigarette under his boot. Sympathy died on that bridge. Monroe didn't argue. She just nodded once and stepped away, giving him space. He watched as Lena was guided into the back of a cruiser. For a second, their eyes met through the window glass. She mouthed something he couldn't hear. I'm sorry. But it didn't matter. Sorry was a word people used when there was something left to fix. This was beyond fixing. As the cars pulled away, the yard emptied until only Ryan and the river remained. The silence settled like dust. He sat on the hood again, elbows on his knees, staring at the water. His phone buzzed. He hesitated before answering. Captain Cole? It was Dr. Mason Lee. His voice was calm, measured. Your son woke up. Ryan froze. He's awake? Yes. Stable. He's weak but responsive. He asked for you. The air caught in Ryan's throat. For a moment, he couldn't move. All the anger, all the noise had filled his head for days. Gone, replaced by something sharp and clean. I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said, voice breaking slightly. He drove fast but not reckless, the world blurring past in streaks of light and shadow. By the time he reached the hospital, his heart felt like it might burst out his chest. Ethan's room was quiet, the hum of machines softer now. The boy lay small under the blanket, eyes half open, fragile but alive. When Ryan stepped inside, Ethan's lips curved into faintest smile. Hey, buddy, Ryan said, kneeling beside the bed. Dad. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. You came back. Ryan gripped his son's hand gently. Always, he said. I always come back. Ethan blinked up at him, sleepy and dazed. Mom's okay? Ryan hesitated. She's resting. We'll talk about that later, okay? The boy nodded faintly, drifting back toward sleep. Ryan sat there for a long time, watching the rise and fall of his son's chest. When he finally stepped out of the room, Monroe was waiting in the hallway. She didn't say anything, just handed him a small envelope. Inside was a copy of the audio transcript from the bridge, Mark's confession, Lena's involvement, the full chain of evidence. Closure, Monroe said quietly. Ryan folded the paper once, twice, and slid it into his pocket. Closure, he repeated. That's what they call it when there's nothing left to lose. Monroe studied him. What are you going to do now? He looked back through the glass at his sleeping son. Take him home. Try to be the man he still thinks I am. Monroe gave a small nod. That's harder than any mission, Captain. Ryan managed a tired half-smile. Yeah, he said, but it's one I can't fail. As he walked down the corridor, the early sunlight spilled through the windows, chasing away the night. For the first time since that call in the helicopter, he felt something close to peace. Not forgiveness, not healing, but a fragile truce with the world. Behind him, nurses whispered, doors clicked, and life went on. Ahead of him, the path was uncertain, but it was just a walk. The soldier was broken, yes, but he was still standing. And for Ethan, that was enough. Evening returned with a strange calm, the kind that comes only after storms have exhausted themselves. The city glowed faintly behind Ryan as he drove, headlights sweeping across the dark road that curved toward Easton Bridge. The same bridge where Ethan had fallen. The same one that haunted his every breath. He wasn't there on police orders, nor revenge. Just something heavier, something that needed to be buried before it consumed him. The world had gone quiet, but inside him the noise had never stopped. As he stepped out of the truck, the air hit cold and sharp. The river below moved slow, whispering against the pylons. He could still picture it. The silver coupe skidding, the scream, the splash. He knelt by the guardrail and placed his hand on the spot where the paint was scraped, where the investigation markers had once been taped. The metal felt colder than the rain ever had. Behind him, tires crunched over gravel. A car door opened. He didn't turn. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. Detective Monroe's voice drifted across the wind. "Didn't trust you'd stay away from this place. I figured I'd watch your six." Ryan's lips twitched. Not quite a smile. Old habits die hard. Monroe walked closer, her boots echoing. "He's being transferred tonight," she said. "Mark, maximum security. They wanted to tell you." Ryan nodded once. "Good." "And Lena," Monroe added, "her lawyer's cutting a deal. She's giving full testimony in exchange for partial immunity. It won't save her reputation, but it might keep her out of prison." Ryan said nothing. Monroe studied him, the faint glow of street lamps painting lines across his face. "You could fight it," she said. "Make sure she pays harder. You got the evidence." Ryan's gaze stayed fixed on the river. "No," he murmured. "She's already serving her sentence." "How?" He exhaled slowly. "Every night she'll see Ethan's face. Every morning she'll wonder if he forgave her. That's life without parole." Monroe nodded silently. She understood the kind of punishment words couldn't describe. Ryan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the folded audio transcript Monroe had given him. The confession, the proof, all the pain written in black and white. He sat on the rail and held a lighter beneath it. The flame caught easily, paper curling, turning orange, then black. He watched until it drifted away as ash over the river. "No more evidence," he said quietly. "No more ghosts." Monroe looked at him for a long moment, then spoke softly. "For what it's worth, your boy's lucky. Not because you saved him, but because you didn't let hate finish what they started." Ryan gave a slow nod. "If I had, I'd never be able to look him in the eye again." They stood there in silence. The river below shimmered under the moonlight, calm and endless. After a while, Monroe's radio crackled, calling her back to the station. She started toward her car, then paused. "You going home?" "Soon," he said. "Just needed to end where it began." She nodded once and left. Her taillights faded down the empty road, leaving Ryan alone with the wind. He walked toward the middle of the bridge, hands resting on the cold steel. The night air stung, but he welcomed it. Across the water, he could see the faint lights of the hospital in the distance, a reminder that Ethan was alive, waiting, still believing his father could fix anything. "Mission complete," he whispered, the same words he'd said after every operation. But this time, they didn't sound like victory. They sounded like survival. He stayed there until the wind carried away the last of the burnt paper scent. Then he turned, climbed into his truck, and started the engine. As the vehicle rumbled away from the bridge, the reflection of his taillights shimmered across the water. Two fading lines, red and trembling, like the heartbeat of something that refused to die. And though the road ahead was dark, Ryan felt a small light flicker in his chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the fragile beginning of peace. For Ethan, that would be enough. The next morning came wrapped in mist, soft and cold, like the world was trying to make up for everything it had done wrong. Ryan sat in the hospital parking lot, hands resting on the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the main doors where nurses moved in slow rhythm. He hadn't slept. The smoke from the bridge still clung to his clothes, faint and bitter. Inside, Ethan was awake. That should have been enough. But peace was a fragile lie, and he could still feel it cracking inside him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Alina's face, her tears, her lies, and the truth tangled between them. He had walked away from vengeance, yes, but not from the weight it left behind. He finally stepped out of the truck, pocketing a small folded letter. It was addressed to Lena, the last thing he'd ever write to her. When he entered Ethan's room, sunlight filtered through the blinds, cutting the space into quiet stripes of gold. Ethan sat up slightly, a small toy helicopter resting beside him. His eyes lit up when he saw his father. "Dad," he said weakly, "the doctor said I can go home soon." Ryan managed a faint smile. "That's the best thing I've heard in days." Ethan looked down, fiddling with the toy. "Mom came last night." Ryan's heart paused mid-beat. "She did?" "Yeah," Ethan whispered. "She cried a lot. said she was sorry. I told her you'd come back, that you'd fix everything. His eyes lifted, bright with the kind of faith only a child could hold. Did you fix it, Dad? Ryan sat beside him, the weight of the question pressing harder than any mission ever had. He brushed a hand through Ethan's hair. I did what I could, he said softly. Sometimes fixing things doesn't mean making them like before. It means stopping them from breaking any worse. Ethan nodded, not fully understanding, but comforted by his father's calm. Within minutes, his breathing steadied, and he drifted back into sleep. Ryan kissed his forehead, whispered something only the boy could hear, and stood to leave. He walked through the hallway until he reached the visitor's wing. A guard stood outside one of the rooms, Lena's temporary holding area before her formal hearing. Captain Cole, the guard said. They said you might come. Ryan nodded. Just a few minutes. Inside, Lena sat by the window in hospital scrubs, her wrists unchained for now. She turned as the door opened, eyes red but alert. Ryan, she breathed. He stood in the doorway for a long moment before speaking. He's awake. Lena's lips trembled. Ethan? Ryan nodded, asked about you, said you were sorry. Tears gathered in her eyes. I am. I swear, Ryan, I never meant for any of this. Don't, he said quietly, stepping closer. Don't say you didn't mean it. You made choices. I've made mine. She dropped her gaze. You hate me. He shook his head. No, I wish I could. Hate would be easier than remembering what we had. Lena's voice cracked. Do you still believe I wanted to hurt him? Ryan took the folded letter from his pocket and placed it on the table. That's everything I can say. Read it after I leave. Her trembling fingers brushed the envelope. You're not coming back, are you? No, he exhaled, the air heavy between them. Ethan needs one parent who can still look him in the eye. She covered her face and began to sob, small and raw, like a sound breaking through years of denial. Ryan turned away, the ache sharp but steady. As he reached the door, she whispered, Do you forgive me? He stopped, hand on the frame, but didn't look back. Forgiveness isn't mine to give anymore. You'll have to earn it from the boy you almost lost. He left before she could respond. Outside, the hallway was quiet again. The guard gave a small nod of respect as Ryan passed. He stepped out into morning air, the cold breeze washing through him, carrying away the last of the smoke and blood. In the distance, the sun began to rise, pale, uncertain, but determined. Ryan slipped his hands into his jacket pockets and walked toward his truck. The bridge waited behind him, silent and still. Ahead, the road stretched open, long and unbroken. He didn't know where it led, but for the first time, that uncertainty didn't scare him. He'd told his son he'd come back. Now he finally had. The following week came wrapped in a quiet Ryan had never known. The world seemed to move slower, softer, as if even time was afraid to disturb what little peace remained. Ethan was home now, weak but recovering, his laughter tentative, like he was relearning what joy sounded like. Ryan watched him every morning from the kitchen doorway, memorizing the simple miracle of breath and motion. But peace, Ryan knew, wasn't the same as closure. The truth still hung like smoke over the city, clinging to him no matter how hard he tried to wash it away. On the seventh night, he woke from a half-sleep to the vibration of his phone. A single message from Detective Monroe lit the screen. Davies escaped transport. One guard injured. He's heading south, possibly toward you. Stay alert. Ryan sat upright, pulse pounding. For a moment, he stared at the message, letting the words burn into his mind. Mark Davies. Out again. The storm that refused to die. He dressed quietly, not to wake Ethan, and stepped outside. The street was soaked from a midnight rain, the air thick with silence. The bridge loomed in the distance, faint under the street lamps, a scar that refused to fade. Ryan climbed into his truck and drove. No sirens, no backup, just a hum of tires on wet asphalt and the cold understanding that some endings had to be earned, not given. As he neared the bridge, his headlights caught the silhouette of a man staggering across the span. Mark, shirt torn, one arm bandaged crudely, eyes wild in the flicker of the lights. Ryan stopped the truck, stepped out, and walked forward, boots echoing across the steel. Mark turned slowly, a pistol trembling in his hand. "You just can't let me go, can you, Captain?" Ryan stopped 10 paces away. "You escaped a hospital convoy to come here," he said evenly. "You couldn't let yourself go." Mark's laugh was hollow. "You think you're better than me? You kill for a flag. I kill for survival. Same thing, different excuses." Ryan's voice was calm, cold. "You push an 8-year-old boy off a bridge. You call that survival?" Mark's smirk cracked. "You made me this. You took her from me, made me the ghost in your perfect little life." Ryan stepped closer. "You destroyed yourself long before I ever knew your name." For a moment, neither moved. The river below whispered, the same sound it made the night of the fall. Mark lifted the gun higher. "Maybe I finished the job. Maybe I send you after your kid." Ryan didn't flinch. His own weapon stayed holstered. "If you wanted to kill me, you have done it already." Mark's hand shook. His bravado faltered under Ryan's steady gaze. "You think this ends with me in handcuffs?" Ryan took one final step forward, until only a few feet separated them. "It ends right here, Mark. Not with me. Not with you. With the truth." For the first time, Mark's mask cracked completely. He looked at the water, then at Ryan, realization dawning. "You're not arresting me, are you?" "No," Ryan said quietly. "You've already been judged." Mark's eyes filled with something that looked almost like fear. He stepped backward, boots slipping on the wet metal. Ryan didn't move. "You can live with what you did, or you can follow it." Mark's mouth opened as if to speak, but the words never came. He stumbled once, twice. Then his heel caught the slick rail. There was no scream. Just a splash, sharp and final. Ryan didn't rush to the edge. He didn't look down. He simply stood still, letting the river take what was left of the man who tried to break his world. When Monroe's sirens finally approached minutes later, Ryan was sitting on the guardrail, rain soaking his shoulders, eyes on the horizon. Monroe ran to him, breathless. "Ryan, what happened?" He turned toward her, face unreadable. "It's over." Her eyes followed us to the dark, rippling water. No body surfaced. No sound followed. Only the endless current carrying the past away. Monroe lowered her voice. "You didn't." He shook his head. He fell. And maybe that's how it had to be. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. Sometimes justice isn't about verdicts. Ryan looked toward the faint glow of the city, the outline of his home somewhere beyond it. "No," he said quietly. "It's about peace." By the time the sun began to rise, the rain had stopped. The bridge gleamed in the early light, washed clean but scarred forever, like the man who stood upon it. Ryan turned back toward his truck, each step heavy but certain. The mission was finished. The war at last had ended. At home, Ethan would soon wake, looking for his father. And this time, Ryan would be there. No ghosts, no lies, no vengeance left to chase. He whispered one last promise to the fading river behind him. Never again. Then he drove away, the morning light swallowing the last traces of the storm.